Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi, you guys. Welcome
Special
back
episode.
to the Unhinged and Immoral Patreon episode. This is actually our second episode, and we have FaZe, aka Port of Somalia.
Yes,
Hi,
yes,
ladies. Thank you for having me.
We're so
yes.
excited. I love that me and Jamila are here in snow. Is it snowing in VA right now? You're in Virginia, right?
Yeah, it snowed like Monday and Tuesday. I was telling Jamila, but like it hasn't like melted yet, and we're expected to get more. And I'm just like, please, I leave on Sunday. Just whatever. Like I need it to be fixed before Sunday.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you know, y'all are used to that. See, like we're in
No,
Texas.
we're not. We haven't gotten snow in like 10 years. Our snow melts the same day. We never get snow.
Wait. What part of VA are you in? If you don't mind me
I'm
asking.
in the DMV. I'm right outside of DC,
Oh,
so we barely
okay.
get snow out
I
here.
don't know why I thought you were in a like really snowy part because when we were at Hampton, Hampton
It
was a
definitely snowed
it was a
crazy.
snow like it snowed a lot in Hampton.
Yeah, that was like my first
It
real,
must be
real
the first time
snow
seeing snow for
experience.
real.
Like, we all had such a good time outside during that snow little couple days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we barely get snow. Like up here, it'll dust and then that's it. But like the rest of Virginia
Oh,
gets snow.
I was
But I'm
literally
like right
saying
outside of DC.
Got you,
it
got
snows
you.
in DC though sometimes, doesn't it?
It's like
Not for
fake
real.
snow. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
Word.
real. And it's like usually a day or two and it's gone, if not the same day type
And what's
stuff.
crazy about that is, you know, you can be so close yet so far because Baltimore, it snowed in Baltimore. Like it was like Virginia in the sense of like it's wintertime. I know I need to have like a snow coat. Like it's gonna be cold outside and it's gonna snow. I have so many pairs of Uggs from when I was at Towson. Like,
You know, sometimes when you talk, I'm like, you'll be like, oh, my time in Hampton. And then you'll be like, yeah, I'm Baltimore and Towson. And I'm just like, girl, you've been everywhere.
Mecca has been everywhere. She just be
I,
bouncing.
I really do. That's honestly how I ended up in Texas. I was like, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna go to Texas. But I really ended up out here because I had just ran into one too many men who knew my ex. So, but at the third one, I was like, okay, well, I'm not
It's time
from
to
here.
go.
Here? Like
No,
that happened here?
so honestly, what ended up happening, we broke up during the pandemic, and I was trying to date in Baltimore, but Baltimore's like really small. Like it's a small city, especially like I mean it's mostly black, but it's really small, even between the actual city and the county. And my ex was from the county, but I was actually living in the city, so I was dibbling and dabbling in both. And there were three different fellas who I was talking to, and the first one knew him because they went to middle school together. The second one knew him from a recreational basketball league as kids. And then the third one, I forgot how he even knew him. But it was just like, I was like, this is too much. This is too much. I have to go. I have to go. So then, even before I moved, I had started dating in DC. Like, I would go to DC on the weekends. And I that's why it's like, oh, it's funny. Like when I be talking about the DMV, I'm like, no, I do know a little thing or two because I was bouncing all around. That was how I found out black people was really doing coke. Like, unironically, I was dating a lawyer in DC, and I was going to stuff, and I was like, well, this is not the cutesy bump. This is like this is very
Lines.
these are lines. These are lines. I'm feel like I'm fucking up the vibe, so I'm just gonna leave the room while y'all do this. But I am having a great time. Please keep inviting me back. I'm having so much
Right.
fun. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely a weird place here. Like I know I've always noticed that like places where like people make more money, the drugs are just more expensive and like more what's it called. And I remember like when I first moved back here, it was so normal. People were doing coke in front of me, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I
yeah.
grew up in the Middle East. Like this is not okay for me. I gotta go.
You grew up in Somalia?
No, so I was born in here in Virginia, and then when I was about like 6 months, I guess, I moved to Saudi Arabia. Well, I didn't move, obviously. My parents
Yeah.
moved. I lived in Saudi Arabia until I was about 5. I moved back here. I stayed here until I was about 14, right after ninth grade.
Uh-huh.
Moved to the UAE, so I lived in Dubai for 3 years. I graduated from high school in Dubai, and then after
Oh,
Dubai, I
wow.
went to Kenya. Went to university in Kenya and then came back here. When I
Oh,
saw the Kenyan
wow.
flag in your like on
Okay.
your bracelet, I was like, that's my type of girl. Because like, there's not like a lot of Kenyans, at least in the U.S. More of them are in like the U.K. and stuff.
I
But yeah,
always
so I.
say that. No, so real shit. I've only ever met. Well, at this point, I met a group of Kenyans randomly at the club out here, but they're in Dallas, and they did tell me they're like it's a lot of Kenyans in Dallas. I was like, okay, but until that point, I met two Kenyans, and they were both when I was at Towson.
I only know one Kenyan person in all of the United States, and I met her on TikTok. I don't know anybody else. Like, there's nobody around here.
So weird. And it's funny because my brother, we have this thing, obviously, because like we're very fair skinned and you can't technically tell from looking at it. So we're like, oh, whatever. Don't put it in the bio. But he had me screaming. He recently put the flag in his bio because he's trying to talk to this Ethiopian girl. And he was like,
I love that. I love that. He's like, this is how we relate.
like, no, I instantly clocked it. I said, you put the flag in your bio? What's going on? And he was like, and mind you, I had to sit there and think. I was like, oh, are you trying to connect with her? That's so cute. He's like very unserious.
He's so.
I love it.
It was like
I was going to high school in Dubai. Like that's so random.
strict.
You know what it was? My dad was working in like the NGO kind of like space. And so he was in Sudan. And my parents were like, my mom was more so worried about me because I was in high school. So she was like, listen, I'm not going to take my kids to Sudan because like there aren't as many international schools. So they brought us to Dubai, and it was like a 3-hour flight for him to get back. But I loved it. I mean, I will always say, like, I think it was, I left in 2006. So my parents were really affected by, like, what happened after 9/11. And they were, like, kind of scared of, like, raising Muslim children here in America and everything that had to do with that. So they just kind of took it as an opportunity to be like, hey, Dubai is, like, a mix of, like, the best of the East and West. Like, you still have all the entertainment and all of the attractions and shopping and all that without having, I guess, the fear that you have here in the U.S. with like your safety, your children's education, even just like, I guess the way that they safeguard children in this country, I've noticed they don't really care. Like compared to other countries, they don't care. And so like we didn't get to see a lot of like things that were too adult for us. When I moved there, I used to tell people MySpace was blocked. I left the U.S. with MySpace and I went there and it was blocked. Facebook was blocked. Like even with this TikTok ban, I'm like, this is not my first rodeo. I've lived in countries where like apps are blocked, unfortunately. So it was like, it was nice, but a lot of people back then, they didn't know what Dubai was. So everybody used to just be like, oh, do you go to school in a camel? It was like when Kim came that everybody's like, oh my God, Dubai. And I was like, oh, crazy. You guys used to say I rode a camel to school.
Yeah.
But it was nice. I loved it.
Dubai is not camels though. Is it?
They do. Yeah. It's a desert. Yeah, they do.
It's a desert, but I would not initially think
I would probably
Egypt,
give that more so Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
because I feel like I think of Dubai and I instantly
think of the big. So I know about Dubai because my 6th grade teacher was in chat rooms, and like you said, they do not safeguard children in this country.
Yeah.
Was literally telling us at 12 because I was in an advanced 6th grade class, and so I guess she just took that as to just trauma dump on her students. Loved her. She was such a sweet lady, but she was like a widow. Her kid was kind of bad. You know how the teachers who sit there and tell y'all all their business? Like she was like that. And she was talking to some man from a chat room in Dubai. And I know that's literally how I know. And she thinks she was.
That's what I'm saying. That's what she assumes he was.
And what's so crazy is she would Google it. And back in the day, we had the projectors, and we would just look at pictures of Dubai. And so I'm like, no, Dubai's not. Dubai is very built up. I know that's in like a city. Like that's not camels and stuff. Like that's
no. Yeah, it's sand. Right. It's literally just buildings and sand. Like there's nothing else. Like if you go there, it's sand and buildings and like roads and cars and weird stuff. I mean, it's one of the few places in the world that you're just like anything can happen. I'm gonna be real. There's 2 places I feel like that. 3 places maybe: Miami, the Bronx, and Dubai. Just anything can happen there. You never know what you're gonna run into.
Yeah. How was your time in Kenya?
So my parents, like my dad was just traveling a lot for work, and I pretty much for myself, I considered myself expensive luggage because it was just, I was moving around with them a lot.
Yeah.
So I went to university in Kenya. I loved it. I had the opportunity to come back here to the US, but I thought to myself, hey, I'm American. I have an American passport. I can go back anytime technically.
Yeah.
Like, let me take advantage of my family being here. And like, I loved it. I will say, like, I think with the whole identity thing, sometimes I think of myself as an American and then I don't think of myself as an American, because oftentimes when I lived in Kenya, at least, people ask me, I will go back tomorrow. I literally will go back tomorrow, just because I've noticed here there's such an emphasis on go, go, go. We're always trying to get something done. We're running from work to family to school to community and all these things. Whereas when I lived in Kenya, and even when I go back now, life is easy. Monday to Friday, yes, you work, but your Saturdays and Sundays are meant for family and visiting friends and taking care of yourself and going to get your hair done and things like that. And that's not even like a middle class, upper class thing. It's like the norm
Yeah.
in society to kind of have like a good work-life balance. And I feel like when I'm here, I'm like, whoa, you guys want me to like, I don't know, like burn myself out. It's
You're
too much.
overstepping my
America is
boundaries.
such a fast country, and it's so emphasized. It depends on the community that you keep for sure, but like as a whole, America is very like individual. Like it's all about
Hustle or
you.
die.
And it's like you have to get this money on by any means necessary. I don't care if
tomorrow.
it's Sunday. You need to do this. Like like everything is just so go go go. So I can definitely understand coming from like a different place where things are a little bit more slow paced. But I think because I'm from like the South, I have a little bit of
Yeah.
a different experience just because I'm used to that slow paced lifestyle a little bit more. Like a lot of people that are born and raised in the South and are here for their lives, they don't give a goddamn about any of that. They're like, baby, I go to my job and I come
And I
home.
go to church on Sunday.
I go to church on Sunday. I hang out with my girlfriends every other Saturday, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like they love that simple life. So I'm used to people having this simple life, and so now I'm kind of like teetering on back and forth. Like I enjoy the simple life, but I'm also like in my hustle, go, 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 live life, love type of mood as well.
Yeah, like you're only young once. You only have this energy once type of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, when I lived in all these other countries, and like I spent a majority of my time, the one thing I thank my parents for is any chance I had, they sent me somewhere else. They sent me to go see family in other countries and experience things. And I realized I was like, it's only really like the Western world where we're this idea of like everything has to happen now. And like,
Yeah.
you don't know if tomorrow's promised. And it's just kind of like, but that kind of leads you to like an early death, right? Because you're so stressed about getting everything done now. You're not going to care about your later years. Whereas those are the years you're meant to enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot. It's definitely like a juxtaposition on like how I like move in this country sometimes. Because I'm like, I'm not going to be bothered. Like you guys are not going to stress me. Anytime something happens, I'm like, okay, like what do you want me to do about it? Because it's like, what am I?
Yeah.
I'm not going to stress. That's literally what they want you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is funny. My uncle, like when I was in high school, so he came to America, or my family came to America in like I want to say like the 50s at some point. They were having concentration camps in Kenya during that point, and like a lot of conflict. So they all came out here, and he went to school, and he was out here, like got married, had kids, like other family members started coming out here, became a citizen when, everyone got wind of Barack Obama. But then the big thing is Barack Obama's dad is Kenyan. So it was like, oh, yeah, because he, obviously being tapped in politics. So he was like, he knew about Obama like around 2002. And, it's funny, like when we look back and it's like, oh, Barack Obama, but it was like this big buildup. If like, and if people were paying,
Absolutely.
it was
It
a
really
huge
was.
buildup to who Obama is. And so like again, he's Kenyan, so he just had him on his radar the whole time. Becomes a citizen, votes for Obama. Obama does his 2 terms. Trump gets elected. He decides, I'm about to die. I have to go back to my country
I'll
and
see
die.
y'all later.
No, dead the fuck. Got on a plane, left his house. I mean, my cousins still live in the house. Like, I mean, it's paid off because they bought it in like the 70s and shit. So they're in Kenya now. They go back and forth. But I always just laugh because he did have like a stroke. And so he was just in the WhatsApp group chat, like, I need to go back to my country and die, guys. Bye. I'm getting on the plane tomorrow. And it's been 10 years, and he texts everyone every day. Like, he sends good morning texts and scriptures every day. And I'm just like, what happened to dying? Like, what happened, bro?
I
But
took
just
a pause.
to your point,
As it turns out, I was just in America.
no,
I just
no,
needed
but
to be
that's
home.
what I see, like, just from the pictures and how he's living. Oh, like you're chilling out, like you're really enjoying life. They're in Nairobi, but I know he's from a smaller part. So they live on kind of like how Houston is, like they live in the city but outside the city, so they have all the things that they need. And it's just funny, like I'm like, oh, maybe you just needed to take a nap. Maybe that's what we all need. It's like just a nap.
It's that good weather. It's the life is easier out there. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it makes sense. A lot of like my elders are like, once they get to a certain age, they just go back. They don't care.
Yeah,
Like they don't want to be here anymore.
It's I think at this point, the last one, his younger sister, she left like 2 years ago. Like it's only the ones who was born out here, my mom included, who is still here. Like they are like, well,
So your mom is Kenyan or your dad?
my mom.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like, but she's
I always thought it
American.
was your dad for whatever reason.
No, okay, so my dad is Muslim though. That's the
Okay. My brother.
That's the connection.
My brother right
It's
there.
always funny. No, everyone. So my dad became Muslim during the Black Panther movement, but then, and so it's always funny because he has this story. I believe him, but I'm going to say allegedly for the sake of Farrakhan is a big person. But when everyone started getting drafted, you know, and he's old enough that he was in the temple with Elijah Muhammad and Farrakhan and whatever things. So he got to meet Farrakhan, and he asked like, I got drafted, like, what do I do if they serve me pork? And he swears up and down Farrakhan told him, allegedly, you eat what them crackers give you. And he was fucking pissed.
It's actually so funny.
But it's so on brand for Farrakhan, number one. Number two, it's funny as shit. And number three, that is when he became a real Muslim, which is where I be beefing with the Hebrew Israelites and shit like that. Because it's always like, what is a real Muslim? And blah, 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 blah. And then I will have like Muslims come in my comments and get the joke like, LOL.
Yeah, we get it. When you say
Like,
real Muslims, we're like, yeah, we get it.
I'm like, Nation of Islam, and then like he became a real Muslim, LOL. And I'm not going to be
there just
elaborating
is
on
a
that.
difference. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's just funny.
Is. And y'all,
It's fine.
and you know it is.
And you know what I mean. So like, I'm not going to go back and forth with you.
I always tell people that I'm like, there is a difference. Just go look up Malcolm X. Enough said. That's it.
And
Like,
the
you don't
fact
need to.
that Malcolm X
Immediately.
left and was like, and also that's
He
the
said,
thing.
"Oh, you
Malcolm X
niggas
did the
are on
same
weird
thing,
shit."
Like, oh, time to go become a real Muslim. Like,
He said, what are y'all doing? That is not in that book.
No, 100%. Sometimes when I be looking into like, because I knew about the Nation of Islam and I knew about Black Panthers. I had no clue that there were subgroups. So like, because I didn't know, but I think they're called like 5%ers. I know Jay Electronica is one.
So is
And
Erykah
I'm
Badu.
Like, Erykah Badu. There's another person too. Lupe. Is it Lupe?
Probably.
Somebody else
on
is.
brand.
And
It's
I
a
remember
lot of
being
them.
like, what is, none of this makes sense. None of this is, because as Muslims, like, we don't listen, we will tell you we're not supposed to drink. If you see a Muslim drinking, they'll tell you they're not supposed to be doing it. Like, we don't argue about that. So certain things I was like, this is not, okay, like, this is in the Quran. You can't argue this. Like, this isn't something that's up for interpretation. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, there's more past the Nation of Islam. Then again, I was like, I had no clue.
They're like, they consider the 5%ers are very like akin to Hebrew Israelites. They're very similar.
Yeah,
And
that's why I was like, it's
learnings
not
and
the Hebrew
teachings.
Israelites are Christian, but it's like the same brand.
But it's the same like branch, and they have very similar like random ass beliefs that somebody came up with. I don't know, and I'd be like, "What y'all talking about?"
y'all,
I got into a mob in like Charlotte randomly. I was visiting Charlotte, and then there was like a mob of Hebrew Israelites fighting these other guys on the side of the street. And I'm just like, what's going on here? So I'm just watching, and they're arguing. It's like a bunch of Christian guys, a bunch of Hebrew Israelites. They're telling them, we're the real people. They're telling them, we're the real people. Some guy comes out of nowhere talking about Allahu Akbar. And I was like, shush. This has nothing to do with us. Shush. Like, please. Like, don't bring nothing. We don't want no smoke. Leave us out of it, okay? We're okay.
So funny.
Yeah. And it's funny because they'll actually, like, if you tell a Hebrew Israelite, like, oh, so, like, you're basically Christian because they'll, like, read the Bible. They'll be like, no, I'm a Hebrew. Never mind.
You got it.
I'm like, but you're reading the Bible.
You guys are stupid.
This isn't the Bible. This is the book of the Hebrew. Okay.
Once I started seeing the fringes, I was like, come on. Not y'all with a uniform. Like, please.
You're losing me.
Look,
Yeah.
Why do
like,
colors?
so
I don't.
I saw your video, and I was like, I think that so my dad is not. By the time I became, me and my brother, and my mom is still religiously Christian, we were raised Christian, and my dad, we were more so like exposed to Islam. So I feel like when 9/11 happened, the panic was felt, like, you know, do you get what I'm saying? Like, the concern in my household for other Muslims was like, oh my God, like what the fuck is going on? And then even with my mom, I always like kind of respected, and even for both religions, you're supposed to be, like Christians say, equally yoked, and I know that in Islam you're not supposed to marry outside. So even
No, we can't. Men can, women can't.
Oh, see, I didn't even know
Men
that.
can wear, so Muslim men can marry Christian and Jewish women.
Okay.
They have to be technically like of the Abrahamic faith. So women, people, we
okay.
call them people of the book. So Muslim men can marry Christian women, Jewish women, and that's it. And Muslim women, obviously. Muslim women cannot marry anybody who's not Muslim because in Islam, lineage, name, religion, everything comes from the dad.
Yeah. Okay. That makes so much more sense. and then in Christianity, it's being equally yoked. So I always liked that they both were like, well, my dad by that point, he was just older and he would work on Sundays and things. So I feel like religiously that he was just like, Mom, you do all that stuff. I know they'll be good. But we always did know about it. We always did talk about it. And it was always open. Like if you decide later in life that you want to go this route, like I'm definitely here and we can talk about it. So when 9/11 happened and seeing the fallout of that definitely was something that my parents were constantly talking about. And we lived relatively close to a mosque that my dad would like casually attend. And I just feel like the panic that they felt at 9/11 after New Orleans, especially being here closer in the South, I should say, and being in close proximity to that, I'm like, oh my God, this is legitimately stressful. Like, seriously.
It is. And like one thing I didn't like, so fun fact, 9/11, I was supposed to have eye surgery that day. Me and my mom were on the bridge and we watched the plane hit the Pentagon and we were like, what the heck? Like we were on the 14th Street Bridge.
Oh my God.
With the Pentagon to our left. And
Whoa.
we just saw a huge shadow. And it was a bright sunny day. So we're like, what the heck is going on? See a huge shadow. And then the whole bridge shook. Like it swayed with us on it. And so we pull over to the side. We got stuck. Like me and this, my mom, this guy, this other guy, like a whole bunch of people were just standing around watching. And then they make us drive, because like the highway's one way. You can only go into DC. So we drove into DC where they locked us into DC because they did a lockdown where nobody exit, nobody enters.
Yeah.
Oh my
And we were
God.
like, let us out. My mom had to lie, say some crazy thing to the cop to let her, like, basically let us go and head back into Virginia. And so ever since then, like, even with this New Orleans attack, I was just like, it is very, like, jarring because the loss of life is tragic regardless. Like,
Yeah.
it has, like, prayers out to everybody affected. I can only imagine the amount of, like, people that are affected by this and, like, what the repercussions of this are going to be. But it is still a big thing, especially for Muslims in this country.
As soon as I saw that they claimed to see an ISIS flag, I said,
I already knew where it was. Well, for me, it was the minute they started talking about it, I was like, I know this is where this is going to go.
Yeah.
And then they did that walkthrough and they're showing a prayer mat. And like, even in my video, I talked about it and somebody got really upset with me, which I was like, I don't care because I'm advocating for my people. Like that's only what people can do. And I'm not being disrespectful because I'm not saying that this guy's not crazy and like didn't do these things. But I think there is a concerted effort with like media manipulation and manufactured consent and how they're literally like showing us, oh, there's a big Quran and we don't do that as Muslims. Like we don't leave our Qurans open. I have a stack of them over there. It's like we don't, they're closed.
And when you said that, it like unlocked that specifically. That's what I was going to bring up. It unlocked
because I knew
childhood
something
memories.
about that
I was like,
weird. I was
you're
like,
right. I've never seen
I
my
have
dad's
heard that
Quran
before.
open. I've never
and
seen it open.
I've seen a few like conservative media platforms try to say that he was an immigrant. Do y'all know
He's from
that
Beaumont.
not only is he from Beaumont, but he went to high school with my sister's girlfriend. Yes. So when they posted his picture, that was the first thing that she sent it to. She was like, literally, Sharonda went to high school with him. Everybody knew him as Sham. Like he is from Beaumont, like born and raised.
And you see that they said he was living in Houston.
Yes, he had just recently moved to Houston, I guess, doing some real estate stuff. So I was like, so I seen that before I seen all of the conspiracy theories about him being from the Middle East and then coming here. And then now I'm like, hold on. Now, not to defend this crazy nigga, for sure, but this nigga's from Beaumont, Texas. And it's like, if you know anything about Beaumont, Texas, it's like,
I don't even know where that is. I'm just
it's
like
literally
It's a
an hour
very
from Houston.
southern rural city outside of Houston. 3 hours outside of Houston.
Is it like
an
further
hour.
south? Towards
It's
like
on this side.
It's
okay.
southeast Texas, so it's literally an hour from Houston. It's like if you ever heard of like Galveston, Port Arthur. It's like it's around the Gulf.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
in that
So-
same
okay.
area.
Okay.
And
What's that song by Tizo? Port Arthur. I like that song.
I'm crying. Yeah, it's like, so for that to be the thing, it's like, that was so crazy. I was like, whoa, first of all. And I'm like, I only hate this because I know that because he's dead now.
He
they
died?
can literally, they shot him there.
They shot him there.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why I was.
Nah, they killed his ass.
They
right
got
there.
him out the paint. So
Yeah.
did that. And the other guy in Vegas, he just killed himself. Like it was like a suicide attempt.
And everything's weird.
And like, I don't like the fact that they keep referring to the guy in New Orleans as a terrorist and all that other stuff, but the other guy's like mentally ill. And it's like, oh, interesting, because they both were in the military together. They actually served in Fort Knox together, or Fort Bragg, one of the two. And I'm just like, they're both veterans. Like, that's the bigger story. Like, this isn't about immigrants. This person was born in America.
Made a video like that too. Like, everybody is so easily and so quick to make a connection that somebody is Muslim, but they never make the connection of them being some type of law enforcement or military, because so many of the mass shootings, they have ties to the military in some way, or law enforcement in some way, shape, or form.
Wasn't that Vegas guy like that? The one who into the music?
Yes,
he was ex-military,
and that one got shut down so quick. I haven't heard a blip from that. Like, hello.
That's what they'll do. And that's one thing I hate about, like, you know, when living overseas, I realized that the way that the media manipulates people here in America, it's so pervasive and it's so widespread, because in other countries, not to say that they don't have the same issues, because a lot of times, a lot of countries, they have like state-sponsored media, and then they have like other groups and other stuff. But I just feel like here, the way that it seems like all of these media companies are all owned by like same two people. So essentially they're all saying the same thing. And I remember seeing a video a while ago of, they report things in the exact same way. They say the exact same words. They pull news feeds from like several different state you know, channels or whatever, or local channels, and they're all using the exact same verbiage, the exact same tone, the exact same words. And I'm like, okay, so how am I supposed to believe that this is not manipulated?
Yeah. One thing I learned in one of my journalism class, which really completely unlocked everything for me, is when the United States switched over to the 24-hour news cycle, a lot of things changed. So what happened is they switched to the 24-hour news cycle. So obviously you have to fill the blocks, right? So what are we going to do to fill these blocks? So they will kind of manipulate the way they talk about bad things happening. So it makes it seem like crime is up. So many things happening, when really crime has been on a constant decline since the 80s. And they manipulate those stories, and they'll have like those blocks of times where they do like the fluff, because they have to fill out the 24-hour news cycle. And then on top of that, we have the shift of like the CNNs and MSNBCs versus like the Fox and things like that. But all of them are still ran by the same like umbrella, and they're all classified as entertainment news. Like, the only real news channel we have that is unbiased and objective is like C-SPAN, because it literally just shows you exactly what's happening. In MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all of them are biased by design, because they're entertainment news media. Like, it unlocked everything. I said, wow, now I see through everybody. Everybody's
you have to watch
lying.
like 50 channels to get the truth. Like, I tell people all the time, my favorite news channel, oddly enough, Russia Today. I've been watching it since 2009. There's something about, you know, you got to watch like the opses, what they say about you, because I feel like they have a vested interest to tell the truth, so that they can expose you and the things that you're not talking about. So I always find like channels like that, like Russia Today. I will watch it, because I just want to know what America's ops got to say about America, and because I know America is saying things
Right.
about
I
ops.
was going to say, you see the way we talk about other countries. You'll be like,
Exactly.
we're really messy.
America's the no. America, you know, one thing I will say about like living overseas, I tell people all the time, America is a third world country with a Gucci belt on. You cannot convince me otherwise. They will make it seem like things here are so advanced and so what's it called. But I remember moving back here in 2013. I was shocked that like Cash App, Zelle, all these things came later. When I lived in Kenya in 2009, you could do that from your phone. You didn't need an app. You just sent a text message.
That's funny.
And I'm like,
because
y'all are so
Cash App-
behind.
Cash App got
That's
popping in
crazy.
college, and that was like 2016 when I made a Cash App.
Yeah, and I'm like, in Kenya, in 2009, when I lived in Kenya, you could send money from your phone to phone, just a text message, and that's it. So it's like things like that, or like, I was just like, what the heck? Like,
We have higher homelessness rates than some third world countries that have higher poverty rates than us. So they'll have a higher poverty rate than us, but we have a higher homeless rate. That don't even make no damn sense. Like,
But then
we're
did you
just
see
so
that
all over the place.
a couple years ago, the girl who made the TikTok about homelessness in America is so vastly different than homelessness in the Caribbean or somewhere.
Yeah.
Because in the Caribbean you can like get food from trees.
Yeah,
Because, like,
and we criminalize homelessness here.
like concrete is like intentional. Like,
because of the feudalism in this country, right? Like, we literally have taken this country bit by bit and sold it off. So even a tree, like, I was watching, I didn't know this, because sometimes I'm like, America's too much. There's too many people. There's too much land. It's overwhelming to know everything. But I remember watching a video talking about the seeds. So if you buy seeds and you want to plant an orange tree in your house, you can eat from those orange trees, but you can't sell the oranges because it's the seed is patented, which means if I were to want to like feed the community, that seed company could sue me.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to only use it for like my own personal consumption.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Plant male trees around. That's why we have such high pollen rates. That's why everybody has horrible allergies. Like, everything is so intentional. And it's crazy because I didn't even think about that until, like, somebody brought it to my attention. I'm like, because I always think, like, I always thought, and it shows you how you just are conditioned to where you live. I always thought that maybe those fruit trees are just not native to America, so we just don't get them. Because I always see when people go to, like, the Caribbean, they're like, you know, oh, just a mango tree, just an orange tree, just these all types of trees. I'm like, we just don't grow those. All we have are evergreens. I don't know. That's just what America has. Whole time, it's intentional.
Absolutely. Everything here is intentional, and like you realize that when you live in other countries, because you're like, oh, it's easy. Like, wait, you could just do this. Like, and we have the lack of social safety nets, the lack of like, you know, we don't have a society that actually builds on community because everybody here is so individualistic. In other countries, like they don't have the same homelessness rates because they kind of take care of their people.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
living.
places for them to go, even within like the criminal justice system here in this country. Other countries don't approach criminality in the same way as like indentured servitude here. They look at it as like, how can we rehabilitate this person? In Portugal, if you get caught with like heroin, they put you in a drug program for like until you're okay. And even then, it's not like these disgusting jails. It's a nice, you have a TV, you have a bed, like you're treated like a human being. You don't have to worry about roaches and bad quality water and all these other things that like unfortunately here people in America have to deal with. And it's like it's not a business because it's truly to rehabilitate.
Yeah, it's insane. We have like the highest incarceration rate by far, and it's like we're so tiny as far as like population wise, like considering the rest of the world. It's like, why is y'all locking all these people up for absolutely fucking nothing? It's just
It's because they own our debt.
Yeah.
We have the incarceration issue and the fact that here in America, we're like the only country in the world that has this many people that are owned by debt. Essentially, like people own us. So it's ridiculous. I hate it here, but like, I mean, to be fair, I don't think I could live anywhere else. To be fair,
No,
like sometimes of like the convenience of America eats. You know what I mean?
It's like
the convenience sometimes.
I will literally complain until I die about this country, but it's like, I'm not leaving.
For sure.
Always see on TikTok, like during the diaspora wars, something that always makes me laugh is when people from other countries, but like they're born in America, try and get involved. Specifically, like obviously I see like East African TikTok and then like Nigerian TikTok, and then like the people from Nigeria be like, well, hold on, you're America, you're American, and then like people get upset. I have never felt any way. I remember I didn't get in trouble, but my mom was like, you're really spirited, so I got sent to stay with my uncle for a summer in not Kenya but Kansas City, Missouri, because that's where they lived. And
Might as well be.
might as well have been. They didn't have cable. They didn't have freaking Wi-Fi. They didn't have anything. And I was joking, like, that's the summer the World Diaspora War took place because that was fucking ridiculous. But what I quickly realized is that I am an American. So you should not be upset when these people from these who were like born and raised in these other countries tell you like, yeah, babes, we get it, but like you're American, because you will quickly, like when you go over there or when you're around them, you're like, we don't necessarily act the same. And even down to like when they be like, you know, Americans, y'all, you're just American. Like, I get it. I walk in the room with my dick out. I'm so sorry.
That's the best way to explain it.
I try and put it away, but I still can't. Like, I don't know how to. I'm sorry.
It's the American exceptionalism, right?
Yeah.
The idea, like one thing I realized outside of this country is that sometimes as Americans, we get so caught up in ourselves. This country's so big. There's so much going on. There's so many different people here. And so when you go outside, people will quickly remind you, hey, we don't care. This ain't America. Like, they don't run here like that. But I've noticed that, like, that idea of American exceptionalism, sometimes it does make us think, like, oh, we're multiple different people. And at the end of the day, most people just view us as Americans, like, outside of this country.
Yeah.
They don't care. I remember back in the day when, like, Obama, I think it was Bush presidency, they used to throw our passports at us at, like, airports. They were so upset with us. They hated us. And then Obama came and they were, like, slowly handing it. Like, slowly just passing it on the table. And I was like, thanks. And then Trump came back and they started throwing them again.
Which, fair. I can't even be mad at that. I don't know. The
They'd be looking at me and be like, "You look like you weren't born there. You don't look like you're from
Right.
there." I'm like, "Yeah. I'm not.
Let me ask you a
I
couple
just-
of questions. Let me
Get
ask
me
you a
outta
couple
here.
of questions.
I've talked about this on TikTok. My first, you feel me? I don't call him my boyfriend because I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend, but he was Somali and he was a Crip and his name was Hamza. And
Okay.
if he hadn't got sent off for being bad, I might have married him because we were pretty locked in. And you know, Somali boys get very serious, like very young. And he was like, "Yeah, so what's going on?
What's the deal?
What's the deal?" We would talk every day, girl. He was damn near like, "Okay, so when we graduate, are you gonna convert back? Like, do you need to start talking to your dad?" Because, like I said, like that door was always open. He was like, "Okay," so I was like, "Well,
We'll
my
figure
mom."
that out.
I was like, "I don't know. I go to church with my mom every Sunday, so like, I don't know how that would go." He was like, "Okay, so when you graduate, we can do this thing," and he was like so serious. But then since he was like a Crip and he was always bad, like he just got sent to. I don't know.
So
where,
serious, but clearly
They sent him back
unserious.
home.
I'm almost certain. Okay, because this was a thing. He got sent to L.A. because he had family out there where he continued to get in trouble, and then communication cut off. So I now know that he most likely did get sent back to Somalia. And then what would happen was I've had the same number since I was 13. So periodically over the years, like I'll get a random text from a green bubble, and it's like, "Who is this? Hamza. Oh my God, how are you doing?" And then one of my very first viral TikToks was I was talking about him, and it went viral, and they posted it on that. I think it's ran by an Ethiopian though. I know it's like an East African page, and he saw it, and I hadn't heard from him in like 3 years, and he was like,
That's so cute.
"Why are you talking about me on TikTok?" I was like, "Oh well, I can't."
Did I lie?
He was joking, but it was just like, I'm like, I feel like something's gonna happen. I get married, and he's gonna pop up and be like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I did my blessing."
Like that Neo song in the background.
Yes,
Fade into the
like
background or whatever.
he literally just pops up every couple years, like, "Yeah, just checking on your kid." And he's always, and this is, oh my God, this is gonna sound so bad. Every time I see him, he obviously periodically has less and less hair, and he won't let it go. And I'm like, and I literally said something about it last time. I was like, "Hamza, like, babes,
Let it go, baby.
let it go."
Literally, they will never let it go. I'm just like, please. There's like 3 hairs left.
He was like,
You can't keep combing it to the
you
side.
can't. It's just not
can't.
there. But yeah, shout out Hamza if you ever see
Shout out
this.
Hamza.
You're the
Shout out
best.
Hamza.
Blue
Shout out
is
my
my
cousin.
favorite color.
How are you feeling about all of the TikTok drama?
Chaos. Okay, so let me tell you. They they got me for a little bit. It was like a cool, smooth little 48, 72 hours. I was okay with it. I feel like,
Yeah.
okay, listen, I didn't kill nobody. I didn't
What
cuss
did you
your mom out.
say?
Okay, all I said was what I don't like is I only saw 2 videos, and I'm sorry if you make a video about me, I'm blocking you. I don't care.
I think that's
I'm not dealing
fair.
with you.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, especially when it comes from a place of like you're not even trying to understand, or you're like already
Yeah.
have these
Yeah.
preconceived notions about me. I'm not going back and forth with you.
Yeah.
So one of the videos I saw, she had clipped my video, first 3 seconds of it, and then proceeded to say that I was telling black people, which another thing I didn't understand was I wish people would differentiate. Like, I wish some people would say like, "Oh, you're talking to African American people," because they keep talking to me like
Yeah.
I'm not black. And I'm like, what
Right.
am I then? Like, this is
Yeah.
weird. And then so she made a video and all I said was, mind you, Hannah's my mutual. Right?
We're all mutual
I hadn't
here.
seen her video. I know everybody was mutual, so I was just like, I didn't see her first video.
Okay.
No, sorry, I saw her first video. I hadn't seen her second video. And I was just like, I saw it and I was like, okay, maybe not the performance, but let's talk about the fact that overarchingly, you could look at Beyonce as a propagandist. It's fine. That's okay to say, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, the reason why people have a problem with Beyonce being a propagandist is because they don't understand what propaganda means. All of a sudden, you would think I slapped somebody's grandma. Everybody's like, "You trying to call us dumb? You trying to say we're like what? All these pseudo intellectuals." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa."
That's not what I said.
Y'all, that's not what I said. And I kept going because in the I'm one of those people, I like to like talk out my thoughts, especially when I'm shooting the shit. It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
So my whole thing was, we don't understand the way propaganda has been used because, one, since World War II, it's always been negative. But
Right.
Click It or Ticket is propaganda. Law and Order is propaganda. Marvel is propaganda. Smokey the Bear is propaganda. That dare stuff they were doing to us in school about drugs was propaganda. Like, that's all propaganda. So my whole thing was, if we can understand that propaganda could be negative or positive.
Oh, you know what's crazy about this? So to know that you were the catalyst of that part of the conversation has me screaming.
No, it was Hannah. It wasn't me.
Oh,
I just hadn't seen Hannah's video at that point. Because the
Okay.
problem is we're not all seeing the videos at the
We're
same
not.
time.
We're
Yeah,
not.
we'll get them in different orders. So we'll
In
be on
different
different
order.
parts of the conversation.
Because I didn't
Yeah.
see Davin's video, the suckle shit, until when I was making my videos.
I didn't see that.
I had not even seen hers. So when hers came across my timeline, I thought she was doing what I do, which is trolling like the overarching situation. I didn't know she was the catalyst for the situation, which is why I was like, oh, LMAO, this is a joke. Like, obviously.
I was so confused because I'd only seen her first video, and I disagreed with her. Like, I disagreed with her in that it wasn't meant, the performance itself wasn't meant to be propaganda, at least from Beyonce's intention. My whole thing was, let's talk about it in the greater scheme of things.
Right.
She is a propagandist. I'm not going to argue with anybody about that. Everybody's I'm a propagandist. Y'all are propagandists. We're all propagandists, right? Because we all have our set ideas, and we try to influence people into thought, whether it's to vote or to initiatives or anything.
Yeah.
All I said was, okay, y'all, if she, can do bad propaganda, which is like the idea that red, white, and blue imagery cannot be separated from Americana the Empire. And the reason being is because those are the colors of the flag. Those are the colors that, perpetuate imperialism all over the world.
Right.
But when you're looking at Cowboy Carter, the album, in reference to this performance, I listen to Mockingbird. I'm the type of person, I will listen to the album. I actually enjoyed Cowboy Carter. Probably not initially because it was a little off for me. I was like, I'm not used to this type of Beyonce. But then once I got used to it and like listened to it more, when I looked into what Mockingbird was and all these songs, I was like, wait, like this is about Little Rock Nine. Wow,
Yeah.
like this was covered by, the guy from the Beatles, and like this is insane. And then I'm learning all the imagery about that prior to the performance.
Right.
So then the performance comes, I see lowriders. Another thing is, I don't argue a lot with Gen Z because I'm a millennial. I remember Beyonce, Best Destiny's Child. I remember the Check Up On It music video. Like, all this imagery around low top riders, that's always been
Right.
Beyonce.
It's
It's not
always
anything,
been her, yeah.
this isn't new. She
Yeah.
did that in Check Up On It. She did that in Soldier. We can go back
I
and
literally,
forth about how
that's
many
what I
videos.
was talking about in my video, that she's always been unapologetically Black American
Yeah,
and
I said the
Southern.
same thing,
So some
yeah.
of this is like, now in her age, she's serving it up obviously in like a more like curated fashion and in a way to educate people. But again, if you remember her early stuff, it always gave like Houston.
It's always been
It
Black
gave
as
like,
fuck.
that's why when Megan came out, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
this Houston stuff, this gives like early Beyonce. Like,
I mean, Beyonce was in the Soldier music video with the lowriders and the Tim boot heel. And like, she was always Black. Like, we're not arguing about that.
Yeah.
Like, and then the imagery, I noticed the lowriders, the horse, the
Yeah.
red and white. Like, I noticed all those things. So in my head, I was like, listen, guys, I don't know about this performance being propaganda, but if Beyonce is going to come on a stage like the Super Bowl or like the halftime show, for example, but then we remember the Super Bowl with the Black Panther imagery, this is like, we can understand that maybe us having nuance will understand the difference in that, but other people won't. And that was kind of my
people, yeah.
point. Like,
Yeah.
we will have the nuance, other people won't. And so when we
Yeah.
say categorically she's not a propagandist, that's not true because we're not the only people viewing these images, right?
that's a fair
And then the
point.
concept of like identity in that I'm a child of the diaspora. I was born here, but I'm a child of immigrants. So I look at it as I have somewhat of the context. I'm not saying I have all the context, but I have some of the context to understand this is very unapologetically Black.
Yeah.
But I got to turn that self off because the only people that are like Black people are not the only people watching this.
Yeah.
White people, Asians, immigrants, people outside of this country are seeing this, and they're seeing Beyonce, a Black woman, and then understanding the context and history of Black people in America and all these imagery. They're gonna be like, what the heck? If you would have seen my Twitter timeline, it was bananas. Like, my Twitter timeline was insane, and it was like a lot of people Black. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't listen to white people too much. Like, I feel like you ain't got a lot to say to me that I'm not
Yeah.
gonna understand. So it was just a whole bunch of Black people from the diaspora, Black people from here that were saying like, yo, I don't celebrate the 4th of July.
Yeah.
I don't wear red, white, and blue imagery. You know what I mean? Like, if we're getting together for the 4th of July because everybody's off type stuff. So I was kind of like, well, guys, she's a good propagandist because the story of Cowboy Carter and the performance meant something to the people who understood it. But we also
sure.
have to understand that not everybody understood it that way.
Yeah.
And so this can be viewed as propaganda because this is the NFL. One of
Yeah.
the biggest sponsors of the NFL is the U.S. military.
Yeah.
Like, we can't argue about the undertones there, which is why I kind of understood Hannah's follow-up video, but I didn't agree wholeheartedly. I
Yeah.
think I knew what she was trying to say, but it was like, I hate when a conversation is about one thing and we stick to that one thing. Like, why can't we
Yes.
talk about the
I was
greater
gonna say,
scheme of
Yes.
I was gonna say if we zoomed out immediately, I think that maybe the conversation would not have gotten to this point. But I also think that she didn't anticipate that, because I didn't anticipate it going to
Yeah,
where it
no.
went. And like, I totally agree with what you're saying, and that's kind of what I said in my video, which is like, I can explain and give my perspective as a black girl born and raised in the South, in Texas specifically, but also I can acknowledge that without all the perspective that I have, somebody watching it, I can understand them viewing that and be like, damn, like Beyonce really do fuck with America, especially if you're not actually listening to the song choices that she chose to, like, you know, use specifically the intro. Like, I'm going to give y'all a performance and you're going to be entertained, but I'm saying something and the people who needs to hear it here. And I guess I'm teetering on the line of, at what point do artists feel like they have to make it so obvious? Because sometimes art is meant to be dissected and, like, you know, critiqued and just like, you know, really enjoyed in that aspect. Like, I like artists like that. And that's why I really love a Kendrick Lamar, because he wants you to go back and re-listen and uncover
and think.
what this is. Right. So
I
it's
was in
like,
the,
I mean, you know.
I was in the My House section, right? And that's funny that you said in terms of song choice, because I remember when it came on and they were telling us to hold the stuff up, I was looking at Shantae like, why is she playing this song? Like, you know, it's like, this doesn't go with like the cowboy car. This is a whole different era. Like, but then going back and, because like in the moment, you're just like, you're hopped up, but then watching it back on Netflix and being able to see the perspective of how she really laid everything out, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's part, I like that you said that, Jamila, in terms of artists who are intentional and they want you to dissect what they're doing. That's what I'm saying about Beyonce in her later age. Like, when she was, you know, just low topping it on Destiny's Child, it was more so like, listen to this song, like it bops. But like, we've seen her as she's gotten older. All this discourse, I like especially Zoom, we're a little bit removed from it and we're not necessarily in that no more. I'm like, but this is what she wanted. Do you get what I'm saying? But this is what she wanted. And it seems every time she does something, that's what she, like, she is like a master at being very intentional about the way she rolls this shit out and the way she wants people to dissect it and the way she wants people to like do what is literally happening. Like,
Yeah. I think it was very intentional, especially because when they first came out, when she was walking through the tunnel, because I know a lot of people mention like, oh, she was, you know, dancing on the American flags. I'm like, when she came out, those American flags were covered. Like, that was the most intentional thing I've ever seen in my life. Those American flags were covered up. That was not by accident. That was by design. And I think that, you know, upon the completion of whatever she has going on with the Act 3 and however this whole trilogy is going to end, I think our minds are going to be honestly blown away. And that's not just me speaking as like a Beyonce fan, even though I am Queen Beehive. That's just me thinking about what I've already seen so far, thinking about how Renaissance came about and her specifically saying out of her mouth, House was started by black people. House was advanced by people who are LGBTQ. My uncle was a part of this thing, and I want to, you know, portray that. Seeing the words come out of her mouth, I decided to do a country album because when I did my little one country song and was invited to perform, you bitches was acting like it
they
was
yelled,
a damn
get that
problem.
black bitch off
So
that stage.
now,
And with the context that you know that Cowboy Carter was supposed to come out first, but
Exactly.
she said America needs to dance after COVID, so she switched it. And
Exactly.
like, as someone who went back and listened to them, did the whole, okay, let me listen to Cowboy Carter, the way the songs end with the "Durr," and you know it's gonna come in, I'm like, oh, her
it was
mind,
absolutely, I'm
her
like,
mind.
she's
Like-
But that's the point, and I think
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to convey. And one thing I don't like about TikTok, and like low key, I don't really care if this app gets banned because but at this point, I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah.
But one thing I've realized is a lot of times people don't take context into it. When I was talking to somebody in the comments, and I was literally saying, they were like, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying something along the lines of like, maybe this was the point, right? Maybe this was the point to get us to talk, to get maybe more people to look at this performance and be like, actually, this is not Americana imagery, but there's more meaning to these songs that are being performed and the album as a whole.
For sure.
And my response was, I feel like that's the point. Like, a lot of people are
Yeah.
being disingenuous about this conversation because this conversation is not black and white. It's 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
And the idea that an artist can be blatant with their message, but we also cannot take away the fact that it's going to be received differently, regardless. The same way that if I say something to you and you may not like it, that wasn't my intention, right? But the impact stays the same. So it becomes this thing of, we're looking at her impact versus her intention. We're looking at the imagery. What can we see behind it?
Yeah.
How is this being perceived by different groups in America? Because I know a bunch of people that are like, well, there's a whole bunch of white folks in there, and a whole bunch of white folks that be tuning into the NFL and stuff like that. So they're probably seeing Beyonce's like, yeah, America first, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not the point, but we also cannot like forget that that's also what people are seeing too.
Yeah.
And those people are not going to go listen to Cowboy Carter. Those
Right,
people are
right.
not going to go and listen to the like breakdown of the album and see where she's coming from. And so that was kind of my like idea, because for me, the 2016 half bowl performance, Super Bowl performance with the Black Panther imagery and that Tiffany's ad, those are the things that I was thinking about when I made my video. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if we're talking about that, yeah, this is propaganda. But I can also acknowledge too, one thing I don't like is on the internet, people don't move with genuineness, and I feel like that's one thing I try to do with myself. I try to move in good faith, and even if my message was correct and I stand on it, if it wasn't received well because you think I'm talking down to people, cool, I could take that, Buki. You know what I mean? Maybe in my headspace I didn't see it that way or whatever, because there were people engaging in like good faith conversation with me in the comments. But I was just like, if that's the case, I will take it down. I don't care. I work a real job. Like, this is just fun for me type stuff. Like, I'm not worried about this like affecting my income per se. But I noticed there's like a lot of like, I don't know, everybody's sending each other to the gulag over thoughts. And I'm like, guys, like, it's not that deep.
Yeah, I was confused at, I don't know what specifically made it so sharp. It could be the Beyonce of it all, like it being Beyonce, but I don't want to even just say it's that. I think it's just people being just overall frustrated and just like feeling like we don't get much already as Black Americans. So I think that whenever Black American things are critiqued, we take it ultra personal.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's kind of like a part of it, because I was also just thinking like, like I don't think that white people are gonna, I doubt white people are gonna do their digging to like figure out what Beyonce means. But I also can acknowledge that there are some things that they're gonna see that they can't ignore. The fact that everybody on that not stage but the field was Black except for Post Malone,
and
that
the
was
owners that she had, owners of the Texans that she had,
the team. I'm like, they're gonna see that for sure. And it's like, you're gonna feel that, because with Beyonce and her performances, they've always been a little political in some way, and that's kind of what I talked about too in the video. Like, because I remember back before this new era, before Homecoming was like, because that unlocked a whole new era of Beyonce. Beyonce was notorious for an all-female band. Notorious. She was more so pushing out feminism. But I think what happened was, at some point, Beyonce's culture competence went up. Our class consciousness all unlocked at the same time around that 2012 era with Trayvon Martin. That just shifted a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people who were celebrities and music artists started to kind of be like, damn, I never actually really tap into being Black and putting that at the forefront. And so that's honestly when a lot of musical artists started to kind of shift and be a little bit more intentional with that, because she was more so all on her feminist tip. It was always feminism. But I think what happened was Beyonce started to be talked about, not just being talked down on for being a woman, but for being talked down on for being a Black woman. She was constantly ridiculed by racists. So I think that kind of changed her and was just like, not only am I finna keep like the girl power, but I'm finna Blackify all my shit at this point, because y'all are trying me.
100%. And even if you take it past 2012 into was that 2014 or 2016 with self-titled, the use of Chimamanda Ngozi, that's a feminist writer, you know what I mean? And so even like, once again, going back to my video, my whole thing was, that's positive propaganda. Her use of Chimamanda's work in Flawless, in all these other like intros throughout the tour, that's feminist propaganda. There's nothing wrong with that. We associate propaganda with such a dirty term that I'm like, guys, like, sometimes it's not all bad. You know what I mean? Like, safe sex, PrEP, all these things are propaganda. They are. They're to push and influence people. So it's kind of like her use of Chimamanda, all these other things that, like, we can all exist and, like, look at her objectively and be like, it's not a bad thing, though. We're not saying that, like, she's saying, we're going to go and invade the next country. That's not what we're saying. It's just more so it's okay. But I think what ends up happening is, there were two videos I saw. The one that was clipped my video, I was just like, this is too much. Calling me a pseudo-intellectual to me, Okay, I don't identify as a leftist. I don't understand. Another thing I didn't understand was everybody's like attaching everything to leftism and like
They
socialism.
are.
I am not. I just advocated for Palestine. Like I don't
Yeah.
care about the rest of this shit. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a
Yeah.
like a leftist. I'm not right wing.
Literally.
I'm
Yeah.
above this because I've realized left or right, everybody's nuts. Like
Right.
I'm not with it.
Right.
So it was more so like because they saw my advocacy for Palestine and like I say eat the rich. Yeah, I'm gonna keep saying eat the rich. It's always gonna be
right.
eat the rich,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm
Yeah.
not a leftist. So
save
it was like
Beyonce
all of
for
that was
last,
okay. Yeah, save Beyonce for last. Take Obama first. Like people don't realize Beyonce's not my op. I love her. Obama is my op. Like I'm just like there's a lot of misplaced anger here, guys.
Yeah.
But the second video I saw, she was just like, oh, she's saying that like people don't know anything. I was like, cool. You could take my video. I give opinions on people's videos all the time.
Yeah.
Who am I to like talk about somebody making a video about me? But clipping my video and then the one insidious thing I really didn't like. I'm not gonna lie. I don't take anything personal. I'm an adult. I've been on the internet since AIM, and like we used to like trash each other in Yahoo chat rooms.
Oh, what a time! What a
This
time.
is not gonna hurt my feelings, and I'm Somali. My biggest bullies were my family. Like this is
Wait, I
nothing to me.
literally said Somali people are the funniest demographic of people ever. Somali women are hilarious.
We don't care.
Yeah.
we don't care. Truly, like we're the most chaotic people. Like you cannot,
Literally.
like you can't bully me
Did you
because
see
my
the
mom, my
video?
grandma.
Do you see the video
Which
of
video?
the guy trying to preach, like a missionary trying to preach in Somalia, and they were like gathered around him, but they were watching it like they were watching a comedy show. And he's like,
And then at the end, the words that you're not like, because you guys don't understand it, they're literally saying like, well, who is he talking to? Like, we're not gonna listen. Anyways, give us the stuff, dude. Because he came there like with like food and like all these other
Yeah.
things. So, like, hey, run it up, ho. Like, we want the food. We don't
Yeah.
care. So I'm
dead.
like, things like that. It doesn't bother me. But one thing that I guess particularly what I did find offensive is one, I'm a Muslim. Two, I'm a black woman. So like, stop referring to me as like anything else. Like,
Right.
I saw people being like, oh, do we even know she's black? And I'm like,
Like trying to other you.
I'm a Caucasian woman, clearly. Like, this
Right,
is
like,
Caucasian
let's
skin,
be
apparently. Like, let's not argue about that. But somebody in the comments had
you
called
just
me a
can't
Zionist
tell a good
supporter.
silk press anymore. Like, the
I
internet
know,
is
everybody's
crazy. Like,
I'm literally like, y'all, please don't let
I
the
see
silk
those
press
highlights.
You know what I mean? I was like, just because he's bought highlights, guys, like I'm not subscribing to like white supremacy. But somebody left a comment calling me a Zionist supporter, and she liked it. And then I was like, see, this is in bad faith. Like I don't like that.
Because you
I
just
don't.
made that up.
You made that
That's
up. There's
what
nothing you can
people
ever argue
do.
with me.
The thing is, like in my tips that I've gotten into, and something that I noticed, and this I will say, if I don't engage with comments that I don't align with. So if someone comments, like if I'm talking about someone and they say something off the cusp, I don't engage with the comment.
Yeah.
Like I have noticed that people will engage with comments that are completely off the wall.
And it'll like your
And then
video
they'll
may
be
not
like,
have been
"Oh
that
my
bad,
God, I
but
didn't
bitch, you
say-
double down
I
in the
didn't-
comments.
I didn't say anything bad
Yeah.
about you or da da da. But the comments you are liking and engaging with are completely disgusting. The
It
one time
reminds me
that
of a certain situation.
yeah, no, obviously, but the one time that it really, really made me mad was like this past year with I don't even know that girl or sorry they were like go over there saying hi at the cash register.
Oh,
and they were making a
Anika.
video, yes, Anika started
Anika
it,
started the
but
conversation,
the person
yeah.
I was into it with made a video. Mecca disappointed me, and I was like, "Oh, lol. My parents are old. My mom's like Kenyan. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Speak, I
Like,
don't know
I'm
what
gonna
you-
say hello when I walk into a room." They brought up Brittany, who was a creator, and we were friends, and she passed away. And she passed
I
away.
remember that.
like,
that was messed up.
that was
really,
and, you know,
really
and
messed
what
up.
I never talked about it, but the reason I didn't talk about it was because we were on our way to the same place. And we were on our way to the same place because I had just taken on Little Moms and she was trying to like, let's something you can bring the baby to. So I always felt really heavy about it, and that's why I was really standing 10 toes on like, I'm not talking about this shit on the internet. Like this is honestly
Yeah.
really, really deep, and like I'm kind of
Yeah, that
dealing
was
with this
crazy.
wound. So like whatever. The they bitch was liking comments about like bringing up like, oh fuck Micah, and you know like her friend died and she didn't even say anything on the internet. That was like the one time I
does
said
that even
y'all are
have to do
actually
with
really
anything?
fucked
Like,
up. You guys are
what?
fucked
No,
up.
I saw
Like,
that happen real time,
Yeah.
and then I saw Sabrina comment, and then you made a video about it, and I remember leaving you a comment and being like, "This is why I don't engage in bad faith with people."
Yeah.
because people will say things like they'll talk about dead family members, dead friends, they'll bring up relationships they have no clue about. about, like, even within this, the whole Hannah thing, people saying her dad was mixed, all that, her dad's black. Like, we can argue about white mom, black dad, or black mom, white dad, but her father's African American. Like, let's not do this to each other.
Yeah.
But then I realized everybody's doing these things in bad faith. And, like, it's almost, so I saw a video where somebody was, like, referring to it as, like, carceral. And I was like, that makes sense. Like, it's very, like, primitive. It's very, like, I get it. We all have opinions and we can feel disrespected and stuff like that. But to go that far to talk about, like, it's too much. And I personally am a big fan of, like, I don't want anything that I say or do to ever leave a bad impression on somebody to the point where it could be, like, offensive. Like, I don't like hurting people's feelings, sincerely. Exactly. So it's more so, why would you ever say things like that? Like I said, the other girl who just said I said people were dumb. Cool, babe. You know, I don't want to engage with you in your videos, but you're allowed to say that, and you're absolutely right. And you have every right to say that, and I can't disagree with you. But I think trying to say things like talking about your friend who had passed, like, I remember saying that and being, like, so disgusted. Yeah. Because I don't play that. I'm an adult. I understand people have feelings. I understand that people have loved ones. Like, to me, I don't respect it if you can't come after the point. Yeah. We don't got to bring up your looks. We don't got to bring up your family. We don't got to bring up anything else. It's just your point. Yeah, you lose.
And like, the thing is, I wasn't mad at the commenter because I know you can relate to this. Like, as big creators, people hide behind bots and crazy accounts and they say crazy shit. But what agitated me was, like, you're on here acting like you're being, like, this is a good faith conversation, and you're engaging with comments that are bullshit comments, like, with bullshit comments. So
and then they try to make it seem like they're not doing something. Like, that is so annoying. It's like, you know
like,
what?
No,
I may have allowed your video to slide. I may have allowed this to slide, but as I'm looking into the comments and watching you go crazy. I don't know. It's like, do y'all think we don't click the comments? What do y'all?
We're reading
Girl,
them.
I see what you said.
Do people, like, think that people don't have friends? Like, I have friends, I have family.
I was gonna say, as, like,
people
Sabrina
were sending me.
What's crazy is Sabrina responded before she even sent it to me because I was doing stuff with my dad that day. So I was actually somewhat tapped out of the internet because I was, like, driving him all around. And so she made her video, and then she sent, hey, this was said, I made this video. So now I'm going back, and what ended up happening was Sabrina had clocked it. She started unliking, or sorry, they started unliking and doing that thing. But Sabrina had already uploaded the video, so some people had definitely seen it, and it was like, now Mecca's coming hours later, she's done with her shit, and you're trying to say, oh, that's not what happened. It's like, no, but we all saw that. So,
and it's very disingenuous to hold a conversation like that because it's just kind of like we can agree to disagree, but, like, to go that far and, like comments. I don't like comments in general. Like, I try not to engage in comments too much unless I actually agree. Unless I find you funny, you're telling a good joke. You know what I mean? If I can't even decipher what you're saying, I'm not even going to like it because I don't want it to be misconstrued. And I think that personal responsibility with people on the internet is something that's greatly lost because people are chasing views and RPM, and it's like, okay, but, like, at the end of the day, can I go outside and be like, I'm a good person? Yeah.
That's why literally
no.
The whole situation with Fanita caught me completely off guard because, yes, they were in my comments saying those things, but I was not engaging with them, and I was engaging with other comments. So I was like, oh, I thought it was clear, like, that wasn't my judge. Yeah. We're at an hour, but I did want to ask you one more thing in relation to this conversation. Something that I have noticed is, and I teeter this line, I definitely consider myself African American more so because just, like, American, and I know how, like, phenotypically, I don't even think that's a word, but, like, I'm perceived. But do you, like, feel, I personally feel like we're all too aware of each other at this point. Like, there's a good side, positive and negative, of being as aware of each other as we are, because oftentimes on the internet, like you said, like, people were trying to other you and be like, are you even black, da, da, da. And, like, to be honest, I feel like in real time on TikTok, I've watched, like, this kind of descent into, like, you're black, you're African, you're Caribbean, you're this, you're that, you're light skin, you're dark skin, you're texturism, da da da. It's like where I can remember 10 years ago where all of y'all are niggas. Like, we don't give a fuck. So it's like watching everyone literally create these lines of, like, you're this type of nigga, you're this type, like, it kind of blows my mind a little bit, like, seriously. Because for someone to even say you're not black, I can tell you're Somali, but, like, I went to school with people, like, I did Black History projects back in school, and in Cali, you know, like, you have people, and I remember, like, one year, they made all the black kids, like, do something, and it was, like, me, a Haitian, Ethiopian, and Nigerian, like, it's, like, half these people, it's only one African-American in the group, like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm. I think identity kind of like is all over the place. So
Yeah.
the way that I see it, we are all black. However, I'm not African American, I'm African, right? So when it comes to like the racial thing, yes, I'm racially black. Ethnically, I'm Somali, which makes me African. And I've always kind of approached it as, especially around 2020 when everybody was on their social justice shit, my whole thing was, I am black, so that means I suffer from institutionalized racism. Whereas African American people in this country suffer from both institutionalized and structural racism with things like redlining and chattel slavery, all these things, like everything that's come down since then. So I acknowledge that like my experience is different. My
Right.
parents also came here in the 60s and 70s as political asylees. They came here before the country went to shit, before everything happened. My parents went to university in this country.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a difference because I don't necessarily have that child of immigrant story that a lot of people have, but I'm not African American. I'm still a child of immigrants. So in terms of identity, I feel like I'm not telling black people about reparations. Like that's not my conversation.
yeah.
You know what I mean? If you talk about reparations, it's got nothing to do with me. I don't deserve that. But when it comes to, I guess, race relations in this country, it is very weird. And like you said, I grew up in Virginia, Northern Virginia. The DMV is like pretty diverse, but we were all allowed to say the N-word. And then sometime
Yeah,
in the
like-
last 10 to 15 years, I was told I couldn't say it because I wasn't black. And then there's all these other things too. Like some people are just ignorant from my own community and they say that we're Arab, but like I traced my lineage. There's nothing other than African in my blood, but it's like we're also a mixed group of people. But
Yeah.
I also,
It's like-
it's kind of like everybody doesn't speak for themselves. The same way that some people are like, hey, I don't have a problem with wearing red, white, and blue imagery. And some black
Yeah.
folks are like, I will never wear those colors.
Yeah.
It's fine. As far as I'm concerned, maybe just ask me because I do identify as a black woman.
Yeah.
There's like, but that's also the identity politics about it because one of the individuals that made the video, they were like, oh yeah, a hot take from a Ethiopian immigrant. And I was like, so we're not even the same. Like, what is this over familiarity?
okay.
You're
Yeah.
like, you're an immigrant. I was born here and I spent
Yeah.
most of my life here. So I have a different experience than you.
Yeah.
So why are you acting like we have the same familiar
Right,
thing?
just
And like,
assuming.
and if I'm gonna be like even because I always say I'm like a nice person. I'm a kind person. I'm not a good person all the time. Like I will be
Yeah.
nice and like I'll just keep my mouth shut. But she said something along the lines of like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to share the same coastline. And I was like, two things wrong with that statement. One, we don't know each other. So this over familiarity of like being embarrassed. I don't know you. I've never seen you before. You
Yeah.
know about me.
Don't worry
Apparently.
about it.
Cool. Yeah, but two, you don't have a coastline. The coastline belongs to us. Like, if I'm
Right.
going to be a nationalist for 2
Like,
seconds,
let's go ahead. Let's go
the
ahead and
Somali
put it on.
coastline is ours. Like, you're
Right.
landlocked. So even saying things like that, I just felt like it was stoking a fire. And like another comment, because once again, I have friends and family. Somebody left me. There was another comment where it was like, somebody said, "Hey, this is going to start a diaspora war," and she was like, "Okay, if it does, like, I hope black people pick me." And I was like, this is weird because now it sounds like you want to be a token and like tokens get spent, babe.
Yeah.
We should all be in like solidarity with each other because no matter what, everybody looks at us as the same. But to say things like that, it's kind of like, what's the point? Like this isn't even good faith anymore. This isn't even about
Yeah.
conversation anymore because diaspora wars, like, babe, what do I look like to you? Like I will turn my phone off. I'm a millennial. I will turn my phone off and go home. It's got nothing to
Yeah.
do with me. So it's like little disingenuous things like that. I'm like, I don't like the over familiarity. I don't talk about myself a lot on the internet. Like I just come here to
Yeah.
kiki. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not take it so serious.
It's interesting getting on the internet. I am very shocked and in awe at the amount of people that have decided to pretend, because I don't believe any of these people think this, but pretend to think or assume that I am like biracial all of a sudden. Like that, I've never experienced that in my life, in real life. I've never experienced black people looking at me and being like, are you like biracial? Like so all of these people doing this online is so funny to me because it's like y'all are so absolutely unserious, and I'm actually not having that conversation with y'all because bitch, what do I look like telling you I'm black every goddamn day, trying to prove to y'all I'm black? I'm not gonna be posting my parents every day. Like I'm not gonna show y'all my whole goddamn family tree. Bitch, I'm black because I say I am, and I'm not like going back and forth. And it's just really funny to me. Like at this point, I'm just y'all should know that I'm just going to lean into a joke and I'm going to troll y'all to oblivion. Like, please don't ask me nothing stupid.
And it's
I
funny
agree.
because even to Faiz's point about saying like, oh, you know how some Somali people will, or some East Africans will be like, oh, you know, mixed with Arab or like we're Arab. it's like everyone actually has their own version of this conversation because over here, like I forgot what video I had made where it was relevant and someone said, oh, you must be really East African because you know about this piece of it, like oh it's not a joke, like they were joking with me about LOL, but I had said something along the lines of like, well, you know, there's no mistaking Kenyans are black. You know, other people will be like they're Arab. So like, da 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 da. So like, I was into like, well, I'm Black American and Kenyan. So like, there's no mistaking I'm black. Because Kenyans are the black people of East Africa, clearly. And like, someone was like, LOL. And that spawned off into like texturism and da da da. Like, but East African version of all this stuff. And it obviously we're having these conversations in public. So it's like African Americans are seeing this and like, oh, this is like, you know, yeah, like that's why it's fun. Like that's why it's somewhat funny and why you have to have humor with it because you think you're the only person that has this version of this when actually all over the world people have this same thing in their font. Over. Like it is
texturism, colorism, featureism, like all of these things are represented in all of the diaspora, all of the black diaspora, like bleaching, talking about like those are big deals. Like it's not a big deal here, but in Africa,
when I found that they were doing that in Asia.
So look,
in the Middle East,
a
lot of places.
Working in aesthetics, having the medical spa here in Houston, and we have a high Nigerian population. I have literally had to learn how to be able to like do filler, Botox, X, Y, and Z on girls who are bleaching because the thing is, if you've used your cream, I cannot stick you with a needle, babes. If this shit gets in your bloodstream, you're fucked. Like really having to like, and I've always been aware of bleaching, obviously, because I have family members, but having to like really learn how to not just look at it as like, oh, bleaching, like from like an African American standpoint, and have to like work with it and in tandem damn near tell you how to properly bleach. It's advice I would never say in public. You would have to be literally just doing it already and coming from it, and you know, but it's like, damn, like I was sitting back one day like, the fact that I be telling bitches how to safely bleach their skin at this point because it's so prevalent in the population that I deal with because we target the spa is targeted for black women and we just have a high African population out here. It's like, that's crazy. Like, that's insane. That's not I don't want to do that, but I also want you to be safe if that's something that you're going to choose to do because there's so many creams out there that can really damage your skin. I mean, it's all damaging your skin in the long run, but there is like some of that shit is like really poison.
It's mercury. A lot of them, it's mercury. And like even living in Kenya has a huge problem with it. Obviously because of like the, like Somalis do it, Kenyans do it, a lot of other Africans do it. And it's like, it's mercury poisoning. Like I used to see people with like just our regular veins that we have here. Mine's are like blue. You will see it. Like you will see the full vein throbbing. Like their skin just feels, it looks translucent. It doesn't even look like skin. It looks like jellyfish skin.
It's like, it gets very thin. And so mind you, the first time it happened, I was working at a spa before we started our spa, I was working at another spa and I had a girl come in for a laser treatment and I knew she was bleaching right away. But the girls I worked with at the front desk were, you know, Hispanic and stuff. So they were looking at her. They thought we was the same. She was like my color. But I'm looking at her and I will say whatever cream she was using was good because I was looking at her and I was like, sister? But then I was like, I don't know. But so I in my head, I'm like, I can't shoot you with a laser.
She got it. No. That's how you know. Knuckles, knees, elbows. You got to look at the joints.
Look, let me see them joints, baby.
I'm looking at her. She had on like a long sleeve dress. So I'm like, I didn't even have the knowledge at this point, but I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna laser her, and she like,
girl, your whole skin finna fall off the bone.
Literally, just tell the white meat.
Just like I'm basing off what I've seen with my tatas and shit, like they get sores and that type of shit. So I'm like, no. So I called her into the office and I had her fill out like this medical questionnaire, and I highlighted like if you've used any like creams.
Just
literally, she skipped over it because as much as it's normalized, it's taboo.
That.
Like, it's one of those things, like, I'm not finna admit it.
We don't talk about it.
I'm not finna tell you. So it's like, okay, so now I'm sitting here, I'm like, fuck, how am I gonna do this? So I was like, have you, like, used any, so I just came out and said it at one point. I was like, have you used any of your creams today? And she, like, kind of looked at me, and she was like,
yeah, baby,
like, we're just in, like, a deadlock. And I kind of did, so what Jamila did, I kind of, like, gestured to Knuckles, and I was like, have you used any creams today? And she was like, oh, and I didn't even let her finish. I was just like, honestly, it's really just for your safety. I really can't shoot you with the laser right now. Like, I'm not trying to blow your spot out.
Fry your skin.
But like, this shit will fry your skin. So let me like schedule you 3 weeks out. But I need you to like pause for 3 weeks if you really want to do this. Blase, blase. Because I saw where it was going. I was like, I'm not gonna get her to admit this shit. So I really just need to like this is a safety protocol, babes. But like after that experience, I went full on into like, how do we do this with that? Because even that, it's like her not admitting it, you're not finna stop. But like, not gonna lie, I gotta get paid. So like, how am I gonna figure out how to like do my
sign a waiver, babe? You don't want to be honest about it. You don't have to sign this waiver and swear you never took it. And if it happens, that's your bad. Yeah. But like, that's the thing. People don't want to talk about it. And it's like these things affect anybody because like global white supremacy is a thing. Like we understand that in all cultures of the world, fairer skin, lighter skin people will be treated better in society, will be deemed more desirable and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't fault these women for doing that because it's like this system of that's telling them you're not beautiful enough. Like you're not going to be accepted. You're never going to get married. A lot of times when I hear about like girls back home in Somalia or like other parts of the diaspora, it hurts me because it's like, I don't even blame them. I blame society. I blame the women that are teaching them to do this. Like I'm not blaming you because you're just a victim in this like microcosm of white supremacy and desirability politics and all this stuff about like trying to find a man and who finds you attractive and all that. Like it sucks. It sucks, but it's like, yes, guys, texturism, featureism, colorism, it happens everywhere. Like in the diaspora, here in America, in the Western world, back home in the third world, like everywhere. It's just, it's common. And so when people tend to look at the way we engage in conversation, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to look at Jamila and be like, hey, Jamila's a black woman. Jamila will understand what it feels to be a black woman. Jamila might not understand what it means to be Somali, and I'm not going to understand what it means to be African American, but at that base level, we're both women and we're both black. So at some level, we should be, and I also am a firm believer of baseline is you got to be a woman. I hate men. Except to the one I'm married to, but even then, sometimes it's just. But like, I always give grace to black women, right? Like, and it's black women both in the diaspora and here because there's so many things that are like affecting us at the bottom of the totem pole that it's just kind of like, I give grace, and sometimes when I see that I'm not giving the grace back, I'm like, I'm not going to let that affect me because I'm not a bitter person, but that's always my first response.
Yeah, it's
like,
disappointing.
It is disappointing because I tend to look at you and be like, let me give you a second. Even if I don't know you, let me give you a second. If you visibly look this way, my first thought is not automatically, you're a coon. You're going for this. People call me an agent of white supremacy. They were saying that like the whole, that whole immigrants are here to like take the jobs and brain drain. And I'm like, babe, I was, oh my God, boo, like tomato. All that stuff. But like everything else, I'm like, at minimum, I think one thing I wish I took away from this situation is I really respected a lot of people that kind of like took a step back and just approached the conversation from like a regular point of view. And then random people I have never seen before block me and I was like, peace. But other than that, it's like some other people, it's just like, I wish there was a way to have good faith dialogue because the conversation could have gone so many places, right?
Yeah.
And we missed out on that. But I think one of you guys mentioned before, I think it was you, Mecca, a lot of this stems from the election. A lot of this stems with people being upset from the election. A lot of this stems from people being unsure and afraid of what's going to happen in a week or two, right? So it's like, I didn't even fault them. I'm just adult enough to know, oh, this is misplaced.
Yeah.
I'm going to bow out. Peace out, y'all. Like, y'all do y'all thing.
Dare I say, just based off of how I know for a fact scheduling runs with big events like that, I know wholeheartedly that Beyonce really believed that Kamala was going to win. So can you imagine if Kamala had won and then we got that? It would have been a completely different conversation. Yeah. But it's just like, well, I can't change my... I'm not changing it.
It's so hard.
We're gonna have to just go with it. And it is what it is. I still mean what I said, but it just would have hit a lot harder if we had actually won the election. I know for a fact that that's what happened. I just know
No. It was because it would have made it been like, okay, there's this black woman at the Super Bowl. I'm not the Super Bowl, but halftime show, Christmas. In a month we're about to have our first black president, first black woman president, all this stuff, and I'm just like. Guys, I get it. I feel like even the people that are like buying tickets to like come out here and stuff for the inauguration, I was like, there's so much excitement. So like I get it, but I think sometimes it's like Ooh, Americans get real hot about their politics. Meanwhile, I'm like, child, they're all the same. Everybody's the same to me. Like, this is all the same system. It's the same politics. These people agree across the aisle with each other. They work together on, like, policy and all that. We all saw Jimmy Carter's funeral. They was all in there. What did Trump was like playing around with Obama and giggling?
The tweet that was like, LMAO, I'm sick because I know Trump is actually funny as shit. And he, mind you, as someone who used to watch The Apprentice, like, Donald Trump is actually funny as shit. And that's why when he tweets, I'm like, just shut up.
No, he's actually like you know what it is? He's just you have to like separate people sometimes. I saw a video of him like last year or 2 years ago, and he was like, "Why are we telling Afghan women they can't wear niqabs? Okay, you see how long it takes my wife to get ready? Imagine I could just throw this on and go, wah, I'm ready." And I'm like, see, how could you be mad about somebody who talks like that? Like, he's actually not well. He's not like
that. I laugh.
He just
why do you have to
every
be
single
so
time. He's not. I just
like,
hate that. I hate that.
So unserious.
Like, people are so unserious for making him president, and I really wish he would have stayed on reality TV.
Because that was supposed to be like the joke of it all. Yeah. Like that was supposed to be a troll and the joke of it all. Now he has to stand 10 toes down and like double down and like.
And he doesn't want to. There's nothing he wants less than being president. He does not care about being president. So it's just like he's doubled down. We have literally the celebrity in chief as president. We're all just supposed to be here. It's a joke. It's a joke. I just laugh. I'm like, okay, whatever. My passport's updated. You know what I mean? I'll be fine. Like, I'll just go if it gets that bad.
I'm going to Kenya for my 30th birthday, so I'm in the process of getting mine all done.
Oh my god!
We were supposed to go we were supposed to go before the pandemic, but then the pandemic hit. Like, as a family, we were supposed to go, and then the world went to shit, and it obviously got put on hold. But now
I went in August of 2020. I didn't let no pandemic stop me. My cousin was getting married, so I went.
Well, that makes sense. The reason I'm glad we paused it though, because if I had went, I definitely would have had to be like more on a family tip. And now I'm more educated because my family does live in Nairobi. Now I know it's like a lit city, so like that's why it's kind of like a birthday trip. So it's like I can be outside while also doing the family stuff.
You need to go to the beach. I'm going to message you. I'm going to send you all the places, all the hotels, all the restaurants. I got you.
When I was
There's so much to do.
Actually, if I had went with y'all and then came back and been seeing all this outside stuff, I would have been pissed. Because I would have just been sitting there with the old people on the porch. Like, that's what
you know how like people talk about Dirty December? Yeah. Dirty December is like normal for us in Kenya. We don't call it that.
Yeah.
But like we used to go to the club at like midnight, 1 p.m., 1 a.m. and would not leave until 9 a.m. in the morning.
Like, we were going to go in December of like 2020. Like, that's so crazy because then like Daddy became a thing and I was like, oh, is this like as a whole, like December is like the lit month.
The continent is just like that.
Just jumping. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, the whole continent, like and the weather too, because the weather is like warmer in December than it is here because they're in the southern hemisphere, so it's summertime. Kenya in the summer, especially New Year's, whoa, like it's like my favorite time of year.
That's so interesting having a New Year's in the summer.
Mm-hmm. New Year's, oh my god, it's my favorite. That's why, like in like at least for like a lot of us like from the diaspora, we spend our summers here and our winters there.
Yes,
like we're like the opposite snowbirds. Yeah.
Wow. That's so much insight because I feel like, and that's the other thing before we get off, that TikTok has really taught me. Being exposed to so many other people from the diaspora, it was things that like my family did that were not explained, that I was just like, oh, this is just something my family does. And then hearing other people, like even the context with this, just like they told us to like come in December, January. Yeah, that's the best time to come. No context though, like just do that, which works out because, you know, kids are on break and all that
winter holiday.
But like even you saying like, yeah, because the weather's real nice and like da 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 da. It's like, oh, thank you for providing so much context to these people I just thought were crazy.
No, you're gonna love it. I tell people all the time. Everybody who goes to Kenya falls in love with Kenya. It's just just a different atmosphere.
I know. Wow. I'm so excited to see the animals and stuff. But
no, I'll send you a full list.
I'm so I'm dead ass so excited. I'm actually, like I said, trying to get all my immunizations and like I need not just the passport, but like the other thing. I can't think of the name right now, but I'm trying to get all my paperwork in order. So. But thank you so much.
Yes, this was great.
I know this was so good, girl. You are so it. Where can we follow you at on other platforms?
So I'm on Instagram at Port of Somalia, PortofSomalia. I do have a Twitter account, but it's just for me to like rant and rave, and it's locked. So don't ever think that I will follow you. Sorry. It's literally, that's my private friend story. Friends only.
Yes,
that's truly my friends only because I do all my business over there.
No, literally.
But I'm on Instagram, and then I finally, like, a lot of people. I used to podcast back in like I podcasted from 2017 to 2021. My community is more so familiar with that. It was more of like a little niche podcast, but I've decided to go back this year. I haven't just announced anything yet. So if you're following me on IG, you will definitely see that.
Okay, for sure. I'm really liking, when we were talking to Horace yesterday, he has a podcast as well, and people are so worried about stuff translating on other platforms, and at least in our experience, the yappers, get a podcast, my girl, because your community does care about your opinion, and I know people say oversaturation, but you've built up a community already. Like they want to keep fucking with you. Like,
oh no, I literally, my comment section, like I remember a couple weeks ago I was talking about, like there's internet lore about me, and there were like literally 500 comments be like, bitch, where's that goddamn podcast? And what happened to that podcast? And why that podcast ended?
They were in our comments on our Patreon. We asked like, well, what do you want to hear? And they were like, the lore. Like, and I had seen you say your internet lore, and someone referenced it like, no, she needs to get on there and tell us the lore. So when you were telling us about being in Dubai, I'm like, oh, we got some of it. We got some of it. But what's your podcast name?
So right now it's a tentative, so I don't want to announce it just yet because I want to make sure that I get all like my copywritten and my trademarks and stuff like that in order. The one good thing about having a podcast previously was I know all this stuff, like all the like getting the streaming,
we went through like 17 name changes, girl. We went through so many. Name changes. It was a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and you got to do all this research and get it patented and copywritten and like your EIN and all that stuff. So it's like I've been working on all of that just because I realized with TikTok ending, for me, it was more so I did TikTok for fun. Like I have a really like not a stressful job, but like a big girl adult job that like takes up all my time. So this was my outlet, and I've realized with TikTok ending that I don't want it to like end up not having a creative outlet to just express myself. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll get back into podcasting after like people have been harassing me for a couple of years to come back. But it's a lot of work, but I feel like it is for the yappers. Listen, as long as you're consistent, that was the only thing that I used to tell people back in the day, especially after my podcast ended. People were like, well, what's your one advice? And I was like, no, you just have to keep posting. Like the one good thing that happened for me during that time, it was like 2017 to 2021, every week without fail. Every week without fail, you were getting an episode. And so as long as like you want to yap, people will find you. Like your community will always find you.
It slowly and steadily grows. Like we're watching in real time with our numbers and saying like just if you.
I watched you guys launch this. I watched you guys post the pictures. Watched you guys launch this, and like I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is so dope. Like I love seeing anybody embrace like whatever it is that you love doing, and you guys are truly just like yappers that are nice people who are, who don't want to hurt people's feelings. You guys are just like, let's shoot the shit, let's have fun, let's talk about real things, and I feel like it's so needed.
There's so much serious shit. Like I'm so like, I'm like, I'm in real life, I'm not serious at all, like ever. So it's like when people try to like all of a sudden be serious on the internet and be mad and things, I'm like, I don't get it.
Me neither. I'm like, let's just giggle. But
like, why are y'all trying? I'm just joking. I don't know. I'm just joking.
Exactly.
Just so you know, we will be putting these on YouTube. I think we're going to do like a 2 to 3 week delay. So it's going to be behind the paywall this month. And then probably the end of February, like it'll go up on the YouTube channel as well. Because we do want people to like find y'all and be able to interact with you guys during it.
No, I think what you guys are doing is amazing. Like I think taking the opportunity to talk to like different creators that like we're all mutuals and like just friends with or people you find interesting. I think it's so important to like cross collaborate just because a lot of people just want access to different like-minded people or like I know I followed so many people from you guys. Like I followed Sabrina from you, Mecca. I followed Jaylani from you. Like it's just like a lot of people that I'm like, this is so cool. Like their train of thought is really interesting, but I wouldn't know that unless I connected with you guys, kind of thing. So I'm like, I like that. I like getting to like I just like people watching. I like watching people. I like watching people's like mannerisms. I like people interact.
I love watching people do their things. Like, what are you doing today? Like,
or like where your mind goes. Like your music videos, I'm so sorry, I think they're so funny. Like your music videos are literally like, to me, that I'm like, this is so, you never know where you're going next. And I'm like, that's exactly what I like.
Why are you dressed like Bobby Brown? And not only that, why do you have a deep V-neck and showing us titty?
where did these lights come from? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is going on? How did we get here? But it's like,
It's
that's,
just like,
I like to
yeah.
scroll and I want to see that. I don't want to see like,
Yeah.
I want to be head empty. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Smooth brain hours.
Yeah, literally.
Well,
But
thank
no,
you
I
so
appreciate you
much,
guys.
Babe.
Yes, we thank
this
you
was so
so
fun.
much.
I know I had a lot of fun, guys. I was a little nervous. I can't lie because I was like, oh my God, I haven't done this in so long. But you guys were great. This
No,
felt like
this is
a
perfect.
little,
There was no dead space. Like, it was just so
Shit, we could keep
perfect.
Little
going.
set,
That's what I'm saying.
little-
We
little
thought
chat sesh.
like this is gonna make us go back and be like, okay, we need to block 2 hours instead of just the one because we just be
yeah, just so like, what's it called? Yeah, it